The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
One day at a time with its failures and fears, with portion of pain and burden of care, we must meet.
Welcome to Walking Through the Language of the Heart, a journey into the grapevine writings of Alcoholics Anonymous co-founder Bill W. And now, here are your co-hosts, Chris S. and the Montyman.
Well, greetings, my friends. Come on in. Welcome to another episode of Walking Through the Language of the Heart. As we delve into the book, The Language of the Heart, Bill W.'s Grapevine Writings from 1944 to 1970 with our good friend Chris S. And man, we're smack dab right in the middle almost of December, right, buddy? Can you believe it?
Yeah, this year has moved fast.
Wow, really, really, really fast. They say the older you get, that time goes by quicker, but time is time. It's still pretty much the same. So I don't know, but I'm telling you, man, something's going on. Something's going on. The calendar's moving too fast, brother.
I know it. I know it.
What are we doing this week?
All right, so we're on part 3, 1958 to 1970. We're on page 374 of The Language of the Heart. And the article, we're gonna probably get to 2 articles tonight because there's one of them short. They're both short. The first article is called "Our Critics Can Be Our Benefactors." Now, Bill Wilson, Monty, you know this. Bill Wilson had a wonderful way of handling critics and criticism.
Yeah.
Basically, no comment.
Right.
You know, and so, sometimes he would approach people who were criticizing him and saying, you must have put me on a pedestal that I never asked to be on. You have some level of perfection that you expect me to be able to sustain, which isn't, reality. And, he had a wonderful way of handling that criticism. And, it's a shame that he did so much for Alcoholics Anonymous, but if you're a leader of any kind, you're going to open yourself up to criticism. I was in a meeting the other day where I'm sitting there talking, and this guy just for no reason comes up and starts talking about Bill Wilson and his affairs. He was having affairs. Is that really relevant to a meeting in 2024?
Right.
While we're all trying to stay sober, but anyway, so he's always open to this stuff. But it says, when a magazine criticizing aspects of AA raised questions about AA's relationships to medicine, religion, and the world at large, the Grapevine editors consulted Bill. He suggested a rereading of the following relevant portions of AA Comes of Age and the 12 Concepts for World Service. So, Bill, you wouldn't believe this article. It's trashing AA. It's telling everybody that we're a cult and that we're a scam. And Bill's response is, how about reading? We've dealt with this before. How about rereading a couple of things? So, as a society, we must never become so vain as to suppose that we have been the authors and inventors of a new religion. We will humbly reflect that each of AA's principles, every one of them, has been borrowed from ancient sources. We shall remember that we are laymen holding ourselves in readiness to cooperate with all men of goodwill, whatever creed or nationality. Speaking for Dr. Bob and myself, I would like to say that there's never been the slightest intent on his part or mine of trying to found a new religious denomination. Dr. Bob held certain religious convictions, and so do I. This is, of course, the personal privilege of every AA member. Nothing, however, could be so unfortunate for AA's future as an attempt to incorporate any of our personal theological views into AA teaching, practice, or tradition. Were Dr. Bob still with us, I am positive he would agree that we could never be too emphatic about this matter. Then, too, it would be a product of false pride to believe that Alcoholics Anonymous is a cure-all, even for alcoholism. Here we must remember our debt to the men of medicine. Here we must be friendly and, above all, open-minded toward every new development in the medical or psychiatric art that promises to be helpful to sick people. We should always be friendly to those in the fields of alcohol research, rehabilitation, and education. We should endorse none, especially, but hold ourselves in readiness to cooperate so far as we can with them all. Let us constantly remind ourselves that the experts in religion are the clergymen, that the practice of medicine is for physicians, and that we, the recovered alcoholics, are their assistants. That is a really, really humble way of looking at it. And I know that there's been massive amounts of criticism leveled from AA members toward psychiatry and addiction and alcoholism treatment and stuff.
Yeah.
And I unfortunately have probably contributed to that over the years.
Me
But
too.
what Bill is saying is that we're taking a step away and maybe even below those to the realm of assistance, which is an incredibly humble position to place yourself in. How can I be of help?
Yeah.
Psychiatrists, how can I be of help? Treatment centers, and I think it's a wonderful attitude to have. I've grown very, very fond of a treatment center that I'm volunteering at. I'm giving talks at. I'm helping with this, that, and the other thing. And it's really just to be helpful. You develop a service ethic if you've done your job in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's not about I give to you, you give to me. It's about what can I do for you without thinking about what can be done for me. You know
Right.
what I mean? And
Right.
I know you've worked with a number of organizations, Monty, and we've had our ups and downs
Yeah.
with them. But I think always in an attitude of cooperation and helpfulness, right?
This is one of the things that I love about the Came to Believe recovery folks is that they're going in to like the Salvation Army, and they're not saying, and they make it very clear, we're not here to tell you what you've been doing is wrong. We're not here to tell you what you believe in as far as faith goes is wrong, or that you even have to believe the way we believe. We're not telling you any of that. We're just going to present to you the way they did it back when this was as successful as it ever was. That's what we're offering to you, and then you can make your decision. But we're not here to criticize you or tell you what to do. We're just sharing with you some history and what worked at that
Right.
period of time. And when you present it like that, the walls come down. People aren't, because a lot of times people already have they've already formed an opinion of what you're going to present before you ever walk in the door, right?
Sure.
But when you present it that way and you say, I'm not here to tell you one way or another. I'm just sharing that, like we always say, I'm just sharing my experience, strength, and hope. Then people are receptive and they appreciate it for the most part, anyway.
Yeah. I agree. And really, the thing that Akron did, the thing that New York did was built Alcoholics Anonymous, published the big book, did a huge amount of things.
Yeah.
But what Akron did, it was really taught us how to be home group members and the art of sponsorship. The art of taking somebody through these spiritual practices, and that's where that's where it came to believe. That's really what it's based on. It's based
Sure.
it's based on the first people in Cleveland who got it from Akron, Clarence Snyder and a number of other people. And that's really when there were wholesale recoveries. Alcoholics Anonymous went from 100 to 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000 in a very short period of time. So, today we're stalled out. The fellowship is stalled out, for many different reasons. I won't blame it on, terrible sponsorship, although that's part of it. Sorry, but it is. It's part of it. But it's also, we've probably, reached a saturation level. And there's also a lot of people that know what Alcoholics Anonymous is that don't know what Alcoholics Anonymous is. Very sad, very sad thing is so many people go into a discussion meeting 2 or 3 times to check out Alcoholics Anonymous and walk away going, what the heck did I just, what? I want my hour back. You know what I mean? Because they're not focusing in on the recovery process. They're just jamming. They're just jamming. They're just sharing.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of people got a bad impression or the wrong impression about how deep AA really is because of their modest exposure to Alcoholics Anonymous that wasn't solution oriented. It was group therapy oriented. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are those who predict that Alcoholics Anonymous may well become the new spearhead for a spiritual awakening throughout the world. When our friends say these things, they are both generous and sincere. But we of AA must reflect that such a tribute and such a prophecy could well prove to be a heady drink for most of us. That is, if we really came to believe this and to be the real purpose of AA, and if we commence to behave accordingly. Our society, therefore, will prudently cleave to its single purpose, carrying the message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Let us resist the proud assumption that since God has enabled us to do well in one area, we are destined to be a channel of saving grace for everybody. This is another very humble position that Bill would take, and I'm a singleness of purpose guy.
Sure.
All right. Now, that doesn't mean I don't talk about drugs. I do. I'm a singleness of purpose person because I believe Alcoholics Anonymous helps alcoholics. People, drug addicts, food addicts, all kinds of people show up because there's so many meetings. And, I'm even okay with that, right? But if someone asks me for personal help, what I will share with them is Alcoholics Anonymous is perfect for the alcoholic. It may not work so well with tower sniping or something. You know what I mean, Monty?
Right.
Like you may be better served by finding a fellowship that has a common problem, a common first step. What are you powerless over problem?
Yeah.
And the enthusiastic support of working with other people with that similar problem. So again, singleness of purpose, Bill would talk about quite often, and people a lot of times misunderstand the tradition that only a desire to stop drinking is necessary to go to AA meetings, and he's assuming the desire to stop drinking comes from an alcoholic.
Right.
He didn't think he needed to say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of people, misunderstand that. But again, let's, shoemaker, stick to thy last. He says in the 12 and 12. Let's not figure that we can straighten out politics. With our 12 steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like taking if you take Elmer's wood glue, right? And it works well on wood. It works the best on wood. Will it work on plastic? Maybe. Not too sure. We know it works well on wood. That's what it's meant for. But I
want to glue an I-beam. I'm going to use I'm going to use it for an I-beam, and then it's going to fall on your head.
Right. And then we get mad at the glue. What's wrong with you? You didn't do it right. It was never meant for that. It was meant for the wood.
Right. So God love this. God love this guy.
Yeah.
On the other hand, let us never be a closed corporation. Let us never deny our experience for whatever it may be worth to the world around us. Let our individual members heed the call to every field of human endeavor. Let them carry the experience and spirit of AA into all these affairs for whatever good they may accomplish. For not only has God saved us from alcoholism, the world has received us back into its citizenship. Yet, believing in paradoxes as we do, we must still realize that the more the Society of Alcoholics Anonymous as such tends to its own affairs and minds its own business, the greater will be our general influence. The less will be any opposition to us, and the wider will be the circle in which our fellowship will be likely to enjoy the confidence and respect of men. So Monty, here's kind of how I handle my work. So let's just take my work situation. Right. Now, I'm in what you would call a retirement job. And how I define that is I retired. And then I came out of retirement because a perfect little job popped up for me, right? And that I can really be helpful at. They like me, I like them, and I totally love this job. And I can be really helpful, and I'm way overqualified for it. It's a smaller job than I've ever had in my field. And it's a perfect retirement job. In a year and a half, I'm going to be 70. So this is perfect. It keeps me active and everything. Now, I went in there and I let them all know. That many years ago I suffered from active alcoholism, and I'm in long-term recovery now. And one of the things that I do is, I'm helpful to other people who maybe have the same situation. I let everybody know that in quarterly staff meetings. I tell, because I don't care, Monty. If somebody wants to discriminate against me, good luck. I'm 68 and a half years old. Right. You know what I mean?
Bring it on.
I can go back into retirement, thank you. But that's not the reaction I got. The reaction I got was that, that's Chris, that's very commendable. And then they started bringing me their kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, Monty?
I definitely know what you mean. Yeah.
Somebody just pulled me aside last week and said, "Can you help my son?"
Yeah.
And so, you know how complicated it is to try to do anything when somebody's drinking and wants to drink. You know what I mean? So what do you do then? Well, you educate and inform the family member. So that there'll be an appropriate response from them when the opportunity arises. So I'm in the process of doing that with this nurse, and so people know I bring the spiritual principles into work all the time. I'm going to be giving a half an hour work report on de-escalation and a bunch of stuff like that next week. And there's going to be, if you're an AA member, you're going to say, hey, I know where he got that. Hey, I know where he got that. Because I'm going to be putting these principles into my talk. Because de-escalation, a lot of times you contribute to an escalation. And if you're spiritually and emotionally sound, you're not going to be a contributor to the escalation. So that's really the lecture I'm gonna be giving, and that's kind of what Bill is talking about here. Let's bring let's bring our experience out into the world, but let's not pretend, Alcoholics Anonymous is a cure-all for everything.
Right.
Let's stick with trying to help alcoholics and being the best version of a big book we can be. You agree with that?
Absolutely. And there, these other organizations and societies that have taken the really the meat from the 12 steps, the spiritual disciplines from them, and have molded them to their program, they're doing very well. Because the one thing we have in common is, we're powerless. We need a power. Once we get in touch with the power, then we seem to do pretty good.
We do.
That's a pretty simple message, and it can be formed to whatever fellowship, and more power to them.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So what we just read was from AA Comes of Age. The paragraphs that I'm about to read now come from the 12 Concepts for World Service. Let's see what they have to say here.
Okay.
Now, let us suppose that AA does fall under sharp public attack or heavy ridicule. And let us take the particular case where such pronouncements happen to have little or no justification in fact. Almost without exception, it can be confidently estimated that our best defense in these situations would be no defense whatsoever. Namely, complete silence at the public level. Unreasonable people are stimulated all the more by opposition. If in good humor we leave them strictly alone, they are apt to subside the more quickly. If their attacks persist and it is plain that they are misinformed, it may be wise to communicate with them in a temperate and formative way, also in such a manner that they cannot use our communication as a springboard for fresh assault. Such communications need seldom be made by the conference officially. Yet often we can use the good offices of friends. Such messages from us should never question the motives of the attackers. They should be purely informative. These communications should also be private. If made public, they will often be seized upon as a fresh excuse for controversy. If, however, a given criticism of AA is partly or wholly justified, it may be well to acknowledge this privately to the critics, together with our thanks.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went to my sponsor years ago. I said, this guy keeps attacking me, and blah, blah. And he goes, this is what I want you to tell him. Just look at him, say, thank you, I'll consider that. And then I want you to go home, and I want you to consider it. I went, what? He goes, yeah. Don't just say it to blow him off. Actually consider it, because what if he's right?
Yeah.
So it's okay to do that. It's okay to say thank you. I'll consider that, and it de-escalates everything. It shuts them down, and it gives you an opportunity to grow.
I've used that. Several times myself. Every once in a while, I'm giving a talk somewhere, and I don't really see myself as controversial, Monty. I don't really, but every once in a while I'll rub somebody's feathers the wrong way, and they'll be in the thank you line with no intention of thanking me. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I've used that like this one person was just dressing me down.
Wow.
And I remember saying, I'm gonna take what you said. I heard you, and I'm gonna take what you said into consideration.
Yeah.
I heard you. Instead of fighting back or whatever, they just walked away.
Yeah.
And it is a good diffuser.
It is, and sometimes, a lot of times, they don't even want you to change. They just want to be heard.
Yeah, and
Really?
who knows what's going on in their life?
Who knows?
To get really angry at them and hate them, you have no idea. The walk that they have been on. It could have been. It could have been a traumatic, set of circumstances for them to be reactive like that. And compassion is almost always justified, except. What I always say is some people need a meeting, some people need a beating.
Sometimes.
Sometimes you got to lump them up. It's very rare. It's very
I'm
rare.
pulling that sound clip out, and I'm going to use it.
All right. So the next paragraph is from AA Comes of Age again. In the years ahead, we shall, of course, make mistakes. Experience has taught us that we need have no fear of doing this, providing that we always remain willing to confess our faults and to correct them promptly. Our growth as individuals has depended upon the healthy process of trial and error. So will our growth as a fellowship. Let us always remember that any society of men and women that cannot freely correct its own faults must surely fall into decay, if not collapse. Such is the universal penalty for failure to go on growing. Just as each AA must continue to take his moral inventory and act upon it, so must our whole society do if we are to survive and if we are to serve usefully and well. Now,
There you go. That's 10 and 11, 10 and 11 right there.
I'm wondering what methodology our society as a whole, I'm talking New York, uses as an inventory. I'm just wondering. What do you think? You think they do it?
Well, let's go back to what you said a minute ago about not considering yourself controversial. Yeah, no, I don't know. You know, that would be that. Wouldn't it be interesting to sit down at the talks, so to speak, in New York and ask that question?
Yeah, it would. And listen, I think for the most part, it's populated by really, really well-meaning, good people. But you and I know there's been some left field stuff that
Sure.
that's come out of they don't want to call themselves the leadership, but they are. And has come out of the New York leadership of Alcoholics Anonymous lately. There's been a few things that have, got a lot of members questioning motives and methods. But
Yes,
anyway,
many.
things. But that's for another show. All right, let's do this thing. A message from Bill. This is May 1964. So 1964, I think I was in third grade. Monty. And that's where it all started to go wrong for me, by the way. My mother kept all my report cards, and I found them when I was cleaning out her house. And I could see the change in third grade.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it started out, little Chrissy's trying, to, you better get in here. We need to talk to you about your son. I mean, literally in third grade that happened.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's May 1964.
In junior high, which some call middle school, right? They used to send these things called deficiency notices, and your parents would get them, right? And I got one from my art class from Mr. Morris, and this is what it said. Monty is a conversationalist.
That's a great way of putting he won't shut up.
It's exactly what he was saying. Yeah. And you know what? I never corrected it.
Yeah, took it as a badge of honor, I'm a pro.
Oh, my God.
I'm a conversationalist.
Yeah. Don't give him a microphone. Uh-oh.
All right, so a message from Bill. What kind of a message is Bill going to have for us in May 1964? Let's see. I'm glad indeed that we so often say to each other, faith without works is dead. Action is the magic word. As we strive to devise better ways of carrying the AA message to those who still suffer, I hope that we will also try to create a wider understanding of the operation and needs of AA's world service. That all-important cluster of activities which enables our fellowship to function as a whole. Because these far-flung services reach into every quarter of the world, their direct influence for good is too often unseen and therefore unknown. That really is true. You can go into the general service office and not know, what's this office? What's that office? The typical AA member, doesn't have any clue of what's going on. That's still true. Without that global effort, we would now be in the most sorry and chaotic state. Let me illustrate this by two examples. Suppose, for instance, that during the last 25 years, AA had never published any standard literature. No books, no pamphlets. We need little imagination to see that by now our message would be hopelessly garbled. Our relations with medicine and religion would have become a shambles. To alcoholics generally, we would today be a joke, and the public would have thought us a riddle. Without its literature, AA would certainly have bogged down in a welter of controversy and disunity. Nevertheless, effective literature was prepared. And in 1939, the publication of the Big Book became our very first world service. From that time on, it became perfectly clear what AA is, what it believes, and how it works. Millions of our pamphlets and hundreds of thousands of our books are today in circulation. AA's message can never be garbled. Anyone at all can find out about us with ease. What the dividends of this single project in world communications have been, only God himself knows. I want to read this one sentence. He's talking about the Big Book. From that, it became perfectly clear what AA is, what it believes, and how it works.
I just highlighted that.
Yeah.
I think we know why.
I know why, because every once in a while someone will say, how does it work? I don't know. It just works. I used to hear that in meetings all the time. You ever heard that one?
Yes. And here's something. So it's like, okay, I want to know more about alcoholism. There's a chapter about that. I want to know how to work with others. There's a chapter about. I mean, it covers it. But here's my problem, Chris. From that time on, it became perfectly clear what AA is. It's not clear in the new publication. What it believes, it isn't clear in the new publication, and how it works. It's not clear in the new. We have, and talking about garbled, we've garbled it.
Yeah.
Sorry, email me.
You know, that's one of the things that I'm not going to mention New York, but because I'm very sensitive to, but yeah, there are people who remain clueless. They have grown up in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that is the entirety of their experience, is the fellowship. And,
I hate to see the literature be molded towards the fellowship. I would sure like to see the fellowship be molded towards the literature, but I don't know.
My belief is that there hasn't been a publication since the 50s that has done anything except try to increase fellowship numbers.
Right.
None of it was to increase the efficacy of the 12-step process, or to reassure, reinforce, and enthusiastically convince the alcoholic of the need to follow the steps out of the book Alcoholics Anonymous. They haven't been interested in doing that, and I think that was a big miss. I really do. Mm-hmm. You want to increase the fellowship. How about becoming more effective? How about increasing the recovery rates? And you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that with pamphlets. You're not going to do that.
Right.
With the only really way to do that is to have an effective process that brings about recovery available for the alcoholic that walks in the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One more illustration. Our fellowship enjoys a vast goodwill everywhere. In large measure, this is directly due to another AA World Service, the service of public information. For many years, wonderful accounts of AA have poured from the press and from other media of communication. This astounding success has required of your general service people great labor, top skills, and unstinted dedication. There is no question that this continued torrent of favorable publicity has brought to AA one half of its present membership. But just suppose that these great channels of communication had been left wide open to the winds of chance, or worse still, had never been developed by us at all. Had there been such a failure, we may well shudder at the dire consequences. Tens of thousands of AA membership would still be drinking. Many indeed would now be mad or dead. I'm sure you've already seen that AA World Service is utterly necessary to our future unity and growth, even to our survival as a fellowship. To maintain these life-giving arteries of world communication in full flow and in good repair will always be a top priority task for each new generation of our society. This will require of us a greatly increased understanding of the immense need to be met and a sustained decision of the highest order. that really is a marching order. Each generation is responsible for ensuring that world service is doing what world service should do. So I believe constructive criticism is something that would be beneficial, and if the service membership, the people who are in those service positions, follow Bill's advice about our critics can be our strongest benefactors, that criticism should be considered as part of their operational methodology. I'm not convinced it is, but I'm hoping it is. You know what I mean? Because especially the last couple of years, there's been an enormous amount of criticism leveled toward New York. I hope they're listening to it, and I hope they're trying to understand it rather than just ignore it or think that the people that are criticizing are fanatics or something. You know what I mean?
It goes back to the philosophy. If one man calls you a horse's patootie, you could probably ignore it. But if three do, you might want to listen to what they're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we're as close to a schism or a division in Alcoholics Anonymous as we've ever been. Because of a few different things that have happened. And I don't think that was anybody's intent.
No.
But pay attention to the criticism that you're getting, because you don't want to exacerbate that. You want the dollars to go into the basket. Keep the fellowship safe and sound. And have an effective recovery methodology. Please, that's your primary purpose.
I personally know of several AA groups that have stopped sending their money in to even their district. They're fed up, and they're just not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
It's widespread, Monty. It's widespread. I would guess 1 out of 20 groups in America has done that. Wow. Maybe more.
Yeah.
A lot of it's because of the publication of the Plain Language Big Book and the machinations of how that was done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that see that as really not spiritually ethical the way it happened. But there's other things. There's a lot of money has been wasted on things, on lawsuits and crazy things. You know what I mean? So I hope they're listening to the criticism, because no one loves Alcoholics Anonymous more than me. And if I'm criticizing it, doesn't mean I don't love it.
Right. It means you love it.
It means I love it enough to tell it the truth as I see it. And, the world of today harbors the appalling total of 20 million alcoholic men and women. Without doubt, a large fraction of these fellow sufferers could begin to find their sobriety and a new way of life if only they could see and hear just one AA meeting. Experience has already proved that our world services constitute the largest and most powerful single agency that we shall ever possess to bring those legions of sufferers within reach of what we, AAs around the world, have so providentially discovered for ourselves. Knowing this fellowship, I feel entirely confident that we will eagerly shoulder and discharge well this most high responsibility to our third legacy. As we continue in the language of the heart to carry AA's message across all distances and all barriers, may God bless us. I'm gonna say one thing and then I'm done for tonight. He's saying that if only these potential recovered alcoholics could go to one meeting, and this was 1963.
Yeah.
A lot of alcoholics have gone to one meeting
and
not wanted to go back.
Sure.
So are things the same? Have things changed? Have we taken our eye off the ball? Do we get involved in conversations that have no purpose or
Yeah.
or sound reason to be in a meeting? Those are also questions I think it would be good to be able to answer.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you think that the way things are going currently, that we can recover from it?
Yeah,
As a fellowship.
yeah, I do. I do certainly. The spiritual principle of rotation is helpful.
Yeah.
You know, if you got a knucklehead pressing for a really stupid thing, they're going to be rotated out. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I have a feeling that enough recovered alcoholics are paying attention or trying to pay attention to help the unrecovered see things clearly and make good decisions. I'm worried, but can we make it out of it? Oh, sure. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think there's always, no matter what pickle we get ourselves into in life, I think our God always gives us an exit plan. Sometimes we don't see it right away or whatever, but there's always a way out. I really believe that. All right, my friend, good deal. Next week, the topic is AA's tradition of self-support and a message for Christmas.
Perfect.
So don't miss that one. All right, my friends, thank you, Chris, again for a great show. Stay tuned to the end here, folks, so you can listen on how you can catch up on all of our episodes. And until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with Chris S., and we are wishing God's perfect serenity for you. For more recovery workshops with Chris S. and the Monty Man, visit our website at take12radio.com and click on the Recovery Workshops banner.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
This has been a Chicken and a Pig production.
Kitty, 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 kitty. Meow, meow, meow.
Woof, woof.